right, thank you, Rosha. I greatly appreciate being able to be a part of this panel today. So as we look at the idea of sustainability and what that means, we're going to look at policy development from a city's perspective. We need to make sure that we encourage things like curbside pickup. But how does one do that? You have to look at developing policy that actually influences street design. If you look at a typical downtown of an older community, there's no place to pull in for curbside pickup, on your typical streets. So as developers look at new building and new requirements for developers, we have to take these kinds of things into consideration. We also need to look at incentivizing the use of technology. One of the things we quickly found when a lot of the mom and pop shops had to shut down, if you weren't an essential business and you did not already have an online presence, you had to all of a sudden figure out how to get online, whether you were using Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Web Services, or even something as simple as, PayPal or a Wix site. You really had to figure out all of these things quickly, and a lot of places don't even have the bandwidth to support these things, even in major downtowns of these rural cities where there was just no way to make that happen. So incentivizing them through encouraging online sales, touchless payment systems, safe shipping and packaging. To get all of these things, what you have to make sure that you have is a robust infrastructure for broadband. And that means that cities may have to flex their policies to make it as easy as possible for vendors to come in who are pulling new fiber, but also for vendors that are doing things like wireless technology for Wi-Fi systems, or even looking at just small cells on vertical assets within the city. Another policy piece that needs to be looked at is incentivizing green tech. So you can look at that incentivizing through encouraging electric vehicle transports. Mobility as a service, or MaaS, is one of the things that is coming. But if your city doesn't have a policy where you've already allowed autonomous vehicles to be on your streets, or you've already put policies in place to encourage charging stations in multiple locations across your city, you're going to be hard pressed to be able to sustain what's coming next in the future. Being able to encourage currently testing of these vehicles on city streets, making sure that streets are properly prepared with the right kind of dividers, lane markings, and things along those lines, the right kind of traffic systems that are going to be able to talk to these autonomous vehicles or even automated vehicles. Those are the kinds of things that policy has to be looking forward to. Embracing virtual services is another thing. We quickly saw the flip to online everything, online meetings, remote workers, making sure that cities can help businesses understand how to continue to interact. Permitting, for example, if your city doesn't have an online permitting system where you can actually automate a lot of the process, but do virtual meetings instead of having people come to the city hall for plan checks, you're going to slow down the progress you have even getting out of one of these things, because right now we're going to see a lot of businesses have to redevelop their interiors to be COVID compliant. They may have to remove chairs, do new construction. That requires a permitting process. Well, for the last 2 months, the city of Manteca, for example, had been shut down. So you can't bring your plans in for a plan check. So cities have to be very flexible so that you make individual appointments, you're doing social distancing, but what if you already had all of the systems in place to make that a completely virtual process? Those are the kind of policy developments that we need within our cities. Let's look at other areas. So what can cities suggest for supply chain and security? Food supply chain safety is something that's going to be key moving forward in the future. But we have to also look at things like worker safety. So as facilities, we saw all of a sudden meat plants had to stop on a dime, redevelop. Well, so did car manufacturers. The Bay Area had a big fight with Tesla as to were they or were they not going to allow to be open if they did not re-prepare for social distancing within their manufacturing process. We have facility redesigns for social distancing. We have detailed tracking systems that need to happen from the field to the fork. We'd have to be able to understand where all of these things were, especially within a pandemic environment, but post-pandemic, we're still concerned as Americans, what's touched our food, where's it going? So with that, you can look at enhanced RFID tracking. Those are things that can ensure food safety by tracking the temperature, knowing everything from who picked it, what field it was in, which lot of the packing it was in, what was the packaging location. the delivery time, the location, and even the condition that the food arrived in. All of these things can be encoded within software systems. Ecogistics is one company in the Bay Area that's actually looking at how to help farmers get from farm field to fork, but also being able to track everything that happened with that product so that we know if there is a pandemic that relates to foodborne pathogens, how do we know what farm it came from, who picked it or whatever? We need to incentivize as cities, farmers to be able to work with these systems and create grant programs and funding systems that allow them to tech up their infrastructure. And then automated and green systems for EV transports. I talked to a group of farmers and a group of distributors and talked to them about electric vehicles and automated trucking. And they thought, oh, that'll never happen. And 1 month later, Tesla promoted that they had the first East Coast to West Coast delivery of an automated truck delivering product. So this isn't something that's coming, this is something that's here, and cities have to have policies in place that are going to embrace this and allow it to happen. And then finally, I'll talk about just synergistic, circularity within systems, circular economic systems. The co-location for waste reduction is one of the things that cities can encourage to make sustainability, environmentalism, something that is going to be key. The use of production byproducts as fertilizer, for example, there's a group called Aquaponics that took a unique approach to shrimp farming. They actually located their shrimp farm on an almond orchard, and they used the trimmings from the almond orchard to actually heat burn waste. The power of the burning actually supplied the power needed for the shrimp farming, but the tree clippings, that waste fuel after it fueled the farming, then was turned into biochar, which became fertilizer that went back into the soil for the farm, along with the shrimp heads and guts and things along those lines. Another group called Common Good City Farm, they're doing fish farming in a greenhouse. And this is a real unique circular economy where they're actually utilizing the fish water to feed hydroponically the plants that are in the greenhouse. But they're also having earthworms turn food waste into compost. The heat from the compost actually heats the greenhouse, and they also have chicken coops inside the greenhouse as well, and the heat from the chickens also supplies heat for the greenhouse. So you can really work together with these systems and encourage them through new policies that allow for different kinds of zoning, that allow coexisting kinds of things that were never put together before to be possible. And so that's one of the ways that cities can help as we look at sustainability in a post-pandemic world to make sure that our food chain supplies all work together. And with that, I will turn it back over to the panel.
Oh, thank you, Randy. Looks like you helped us gain time here. We thought we were going to go over time, but since we have a few minutes left, just wanted to ask you one question, Randy. Why do you think it's important for cities to help businesses during the, this time post-pandemic?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really important because our economy is based on what cities can produce. When you look at sales tax as a major driver for general funds within cities, if your businesses, are, let's say 75% independent businesses that are not national chains that can weather any storm, that means that you really have to take care of retention within your city. If cities don't work with these small businesses, these mom and pop shops, to help them figure out how to get online, but also how to prepare after this pandemic, how do we make sure the community believes that it's safe to go back into that establishment? Our city, Manteca, has actually crafted a recovery toolkit where we've put together a package of $3,000 grants for small businesses, as well as sets of poster materials, as well as staff materials, bathroom materials, everything that they would need to post on their walls to allow community members to believe that it's safe to walk back in. We even went so far as to create stickers and decals for the floors to encourage social distancing, to let people know where they can stand 6 feet apart, and even do directional decals on aisles for shopping to keep traffic flowing one way. So cities have to partner with businesses to be able to weather a pandemic, but moving forward, this isn't the last time something like this is going to happen. So we need to have systems in place that are sustainable, and city policy can help get businesses there.